we think about mining, we're thinking about big tractors, we're thinking about big shovels and big trucks. But a mine needs a lot of other machines to make the mine efficient and to really reduce cost per ton. And is what we really focus on with our customers is reducing cost per ton. So we think of the rest of the product that we have in our lineup today, and those can have a great advantage when we're working with a mining property. So we look over here on the side. We're doing a little bit of prep work with some rock. We have the 938K wheel loader. Down in the front, we have a couple of service trucks, and we really rely on our dealer network to give the customer the attention that they need and to give them the availability and the uptime that they need to keep down that cost per ton. These are IMT service bodies, one of the preferred suppliers for Caterpillar. The 938 wheel loader again, 24 different models from the 906 to the 994, ranging in horsepower all the way up to 1,577 horsepower, and bucket ranges up to 47 yards. The motor grader working, some regions around the world still use that style motor grader. It's a K-series motor grader today. And in this part of the world, we use what's called the M-series motor grader, which you're going to see in just a little bit. 297 multi-terrain skid steer loader, 5 different models of the 247 through the 297, ranging in horsepower up to 90 horse. When you look at working in soft underfoot conditions, working on steep side slopes, having to do some of the maintenance work that you require around your mine, that is a very inexpensive machine to run and a very valuable machine as we look at the jobs that we need to do in our mines. 316EL, small excavator sitting on the top. The L means that it has a long bottom, so it gives us a really good platform to work off of. A lot of different stick, boom options available for that machine and bucket sizes. So we're just doing a little bit of slope work up there. Down on the floor, what we consider a traditional skid steer loader, the 256 skid steer loader. Down in the front, the 966 you just saw is a replacement for our IT machine. That has what's called a fusion quick coupler on it. So he was able to come in, drop his bucket off on the forks, make sure he had those forks secured. All of that was done from inside of the cab, and then he'll exit with that. You can also get that with the optional additional valving on it, so you can run things like forks, obviously the broom, clams. So there's a lot of work tools that we have available today. And all the machines that you've just seen can all interchange work tools. Caterpillar makes over 400 work tools today for a lot of these machines. So depending on the job that you have, chances are we have a work tool for it. The M322, that one's equipped with 4 stabilizers. You can also get it equipped with 2 stabilizers and a dozer blade. So we look at a versatile machine for cleaning out ditches and doing some of the support work. That one actually has a ditch cleaning bucket on it, so you can see that the operator is able to pitch that bucket, clean out the ditch, get the rocks out of the road, and move on very easily. And it's a very fast machine to move around. So to get around the property at a low cost, we don't need to bring in a low boy to move the excavator. We're able to just tram from site to site. So with the addition of 124 units that we acquired with the Bucyrus acquisition, Caterpillar today has over 500 models in our lineup. So a lot of you here today probably remember the days of a couple of track-type tractors and maybe a wheel loader and some scrapers. It's a big lineup of products today. We're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to shift into some excavator work and talk about excavators. When we start talking about moving material, we want to move it as cost effectively as we can. And one of the tools that we use today is a system called MineStar. So a lot of the machines you'll see today are equipped with MineStar, and when we see these, I'll point them out to you and I'll describe what each of those features are. There's 5 different systems within MineStar. There's Fleet, Terrain, Command, Detect, and Health Command. And today, these are all integrated into the Caterpillar products and especially into the mining products, and we're now in the process of embedding all of these products into the Bucyrus product that we have on board now. Couple different machines on top. The 374DL, again, it has that long bottom, very stable machine. 476 horse, 2 boom options available for this, a reach boom and an ME boom, 6 different stick offerings. That is a 12-foot stick. So depending on the type of job that we need to do, we can change that boom, we can change the stick length, we can change the bucket size to match material density and to make it fit the job that we're required to do. It has electro-hydraulic controls in it, so the operator has a panel in front of him, and he can make any different adjustments that he needs to based on the type of work that he's doing. It's also available with a quick coupler. The operator would be able, from inside the cab, drop that bucket off and possibly pick up a ripper tooth if he needed to rip out some hard material. In front of him, he's loading the 730, one of 6 models of articulated trucks we have in our lineup today. 2 of those models available in an ejector configuration, which you're going to see in just a little bit. 304 horse to 484 horse. This is a 321 horse powered by a Cat C11, rated at 31 ton with a 22-yard body. He's going to actually pull over on top of this 390 and dump that material out. 390, that is an ME, a mass excavator configuration. The reason that we do that is that allows us to have a much larger bucket. That's an 8.5-yard bucket on an ME boom with a short stick. So we're able to increase the capacity of the bucket, increase our production. The key to this is set very close to the truck, very short swings, and big bucket loads. So you'll have quick cycle times, matched it up to the 775. That 390 is also available in a front shovel configuration, which would be our smallest front shovel in our lineup. If that operator determined that he wanted boom up priority from inside the cab, he can touch a button on a panel and it will actually direct that hydraulic flow to give him boom up priority. The same with fine grade. That can all be adjusted from inside the cab. We have over 139 different models of excavators today, from wheeled, as you saw with the 322, to the conventional tracked excavator, demolition excavators, material handlers, mass excavators, as you see here. And we have a new addition to the lineup today with the acquisition of the Bucyrus product. So we've added 6 more mass excavators with capacity from 8 to 44 yard. And again, that's an 8.5-yard bucket. And then we've added 7 new front shovels with capacity from 9 yard to 68 yard. And all of these are designed a 2 to 3 pass a 770 and as few as 4 passing a 797. And remember, a 797 is rated at 400 ton, so our largest front shovel will be swinging 100 ton a pass. We talk about our wheel loader lineup. One of the most important things in a mining operation today is to keep good haul roads. So from the design to the construction to the maintenance of a haul road, this is critical. Tires are getting short. We have to get more tire life. We have to conserve fuel. So we rely on good roads. We have a couple wheel loaders working down here. The 950 just took off, and when we look at our wheel loader lineup today, the compact wheel loader line is the 906 to the 914. The 924 to the 938 is our small wheel loaders. The 950 to the 980 is the medium wheel loaders. And the 988 through the 994 is considered our large wheel loader. The 980 with command control steering is loading the 740. This is the 740 with the ejector body. And we're going to show you the difference of this ejector body when he goes up the slope and how safely he can get rid of this material on uneven terrain. The 980 has an 8-yard bucket available in either a standard lift or a high lift configuration. This is a high lift configuration, so if you're able to see him over here, you can see that he can easily reach over the side of that 740. Engine idle management system. If the operator was waiting for a truck, he can fill his bucket up, stage in the pile, and the engine will automatically shut down to conserve fuel. So again, we've put a lot of features in these machines to allow us to be more energy efficient. Payload control system in that 980. Aggregate auto dig, and again, command control steering, which is just a quarter turn steering wheel with the forward, reverse, and gear selector in his left hand on the wheel. 740, if you look at the side of that 740, excellent visibility out of the cab. Easily to see in front of him, good clearance underneath, designed for poor underfoot conditions. So if you had areas that were extremely wet we needed to get through, you'd consider something like the 740. That 740 ejects just like a scraper. You could never dump that 730 on that slope, but again, very easy and very safe to dump that 740. About 14 seconds to dump the material out, 24 seconds to return back and go get another load. So this would be the start of our large wheel loader lineup, the 988 and the 990, and we're just going to continue to grow from there. Going to bring in a couple of trucks, but let's start out with the 988. That is a high lift configuration as well, available in a high lift and a standard lift configuration, 8.3 yard, designed to swing 12.5 ton per pass. So we're able to swing the same tonnage per pass, whether it's a standard lift or a high lift on some of the smaller machines in our large wheel loader lineup. 13-foot dump clearance, and that gives us roughly 1.5 to 2 foot more reach and clearance. So as we start loading possibly some larger trucks, we can still cost effectively load those trucks. Now this probably wouldn't be the ideal match, because today is what we consider an ideal match is 3 to 4 pass. But we're just showing you in this demonstration that we are able to load the next size larger truck, because we do have the ability to adjust bucket sizing, adjust the bodies based on your material, and still load these trucks to target payload. Several different buckets available for the 988. Spade edge bucket, GP bucket, heavy duty bucket, and a heavy duty granite bucket. Again, based on the material that you're going to be loading, we have a bucket size-wise and density-wise that will fit your needs. We're loading the 775. He was also loaded by the 390, rated at 70 ton, 55.5 yard, max GVW, 242,000 pounds. We have a lot of different body offerings for these, actually 5 of them for the 775. And again, we do that so depending on the material density that you have at your operation, we have a body that will match. 4 pass from the 990, 7-speed transmission. Top speed on that's about 42 mile an hour. Front dry disc brakes, rear oiled cooled brakes. Automatic retarder. So going down some of the steeper grades we see in the quarries and mines, we're able to control that speed. TPMS is optional on that truck, so that the operator can monitor what he's putting in the truck, and at the end of the day, we can go back and pull that information down and see just what kind of production we had with that truck throughout the day. Caterpillar got into the off-highway truck business in 1963. As of today, we've sold over 55,000 off-highway trucks with 19 models in mechanical drive and electric drive. Smallest being the 770 at 40 ton through the 797 at over 400 ton. And over 4,000 of those units have been 793s alone. So that 793 is one of the most popular trucks in the mining industry today. Now we've also added some new trucks to it. You're going to have the opportunity to see them in a little bit with the unit rig models. We've added 5 models, starting with the MT 3300 all the way through the 6300 with payload ratings from 150 to 400 ton. We look at the 990, loading the 777. Again, high lift configuration, 2 feet more of reach and height. You also notice that we have the mono boom configuration on the 988. The 992, which isn't here today, would be the next one larger than you see with the 990. That's also a mono boom configuration. 777G, 105 tons, 79 yard, 363,000 pound max GVW. Well, pay attention to the loads in these trucks too. Those are rated loads. Perfectly centered loads. Our TPMS system relies on a good load in the truck, so that system can be accurate. We look at the back of those trucks, the load's right in the center of the truck. Forward reverse, 33% on the front, 66% on the rear. Our TPMS system on these trucks will be running within 3 to 5% accurate. We also use a system today called terrain. So in all of our loading tools, in the track type tractors, this terrain system will allow that operator to monitor what he's doing throughout the day. He will be able to see if he's in an area, and if he's staying on grade, does he need cut? Does he need fill? He will know exactly where the ore bodies are, and these ore bodies can be marked out as high grade or waste. That operator will know exactly where to send these trucks off to. If we used command, which you're going to see in a minute, we can take the operator out of the way. And you're going to see that in a little while down at the bottom of the hill for the command for underground. The 993, a real nice match for this 785C. Let's talk about the 993 for a little bit. This is a high lift 993, designed to swing 30 ton in a standard lift configuration and 27.5 ton in a high lift configuration. 18-yard bucket, designed to 4 pass the 777 and 6 pass the 785. Totally new cab design, very low belt line, excellent visibility, a dedicated operator training seat in the 992, 993, and the 994. Seat belt compliant with mine safety, And this was one of the things that we have been asked for a long time to get incorporated into our cabs. Impeller clutch. The operator, if the ground conditions were wet, the chances are as he's trying to load his bucket, the tires are going to slip. That operator would be able to dial down his rim control on the panel on his right-hand side anywhere from 100 to 60%. It'll give him the same amount of hydraulic horsepower to the hydraulics, but it will reduce the amount of rim pull, increasing our tire life. PFC, positive flow hydraulic controls, extremely low effort for the operator. So that operator is sitting in the seat with what we call stick steer. The 988 all the way through the 994 have what's called stick steer. Left-right steering, forward, reverse, and your gear selector is in your left hand. Your hydraulic controls with two short pilot-operated, very, very soft controls is in your right hand. So at the end of a 10-hour day, that operator's not fatigued. We got into the large mining truck business with the 785 in 1980. In 1986, we introduced the 789 with the 793 in 1991, which again is one of our most popular mining trucks in the lineup today. And in 1998, we introduced the 797. We're going to go ahead and finish loading the 785 and get him out of there. 844, you're also going to see an 854. These are some of the most valuable pieces in our mining operations when you look at supporting shovels and doing some haul road work. We're going to come in and do a little bit of cleanup, but if we start looking at how we would use a track-type tractor versus using a wheel dozer, that wheel dozer runs at a very low cost, very mobile, can get from one side of the mine to the other, do a little brush up. Remember, our tires are very limited today. We can come in and maybe scrape some rocks off of the road and get up and maintain a dump. Maybe go over and clean up under the shovel a little bit, where if we had to do that with a track-type tractor, our cost would get extremely high because we'd be burning the undercarriage off of it. We talked about command again, which is part of the MineStar system. Bill, that's standing down in front of you, is running that D11 up on top. The good thing about the system, though, is if Bill was to fall down, that tractor would stop itself. There can be boundaries set up with that tractor available on the D10 and the D11, and again retrofittable. But if that tractor was to move outside of its boundaries, the tractor would shut itself down. Bill's able to do everything from that pod that he's able to do from inside the cab of the tractor. He can monitor all of his functions. He's able to run the ripper. He's able to run the dozer. He's monitoring his engine oil pressure, his temperatures, all those type of things. The thought behind this was the ability to take an operator out of harm's way. You look at coal stockpiles where you have feeders underneath, you end up with large holes and the tractors fall into them. Working along a high wall where it's not safe to have an operator in the cab due to the risk of slide, we would have Bill take the control, run that tractor. When he got into a safe condition again, he'd put that away, get back in the tractor and continue to run it. This is similar to what you're going to see in a little while with the command for underground. So again, part of our MineStar system, one of the 5 that we talked about, and again, we'll talk about some more of these in just a little bit. 994H, this is the 3rd production unit of what we call an EHL, which is extended high lift. You will see in a minute that with the EHL configuration, we are easily able to load the 793 today. We talk about loading trucks. We talk about cost per ton with loading tools. We have excavators available today. We have wheel loaders available today. And we have rope shovels available today. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the cost, and when we look at how we compare that cost from one to the other when we get to the rope shovel. Again, that's the 3rd production unit, a 3516B. That is a Tier 2 unit, 1,577 horse, a 5 to 10% fuel savings advantage over the previous F model, 5 to 10% more production, and about 2-foot difference between a standard lift to a high lift, and 4-foot difference in height and reach from a high lift to an extended high lift, and the same height for a super high lift, which is designed to run a 42 or a 47-yard coal bucket strictly for coal loading applications. We talk about efficiency and some of the things that are done at mines today, and Tinaja does a lot of this work as operator training. So to be very efficient, count 1.5 tire revolutions on any wheel loader, and that operator is being very efficient. Laying the material in, short little 45-degree angle with that 789. Again, this is what you do and what we teach our mining customers around the world to reduce that cost per ton. One of the options that you're not seeing on the 994 is the fold-down ladder. One of the most dangerous things that an operator goes through every day is getting on and off of his machine. So we're doing whatever we can today to try and make that safer. 244-inch bucket, 23.5 yard. I'm going to talk about bucket sizing in just a little bit when we get to the track-type tractors. 789, 2,100 horse. That truck today is rated at about 200 ton. So we've got an increase in tons on that truck from the previous model, which again reduces that cost per ton. Increased ROPS, 789 now has the diagonal stairway, just like we came out with originally on the 793. Both of these trucks have the optional fold-down ladder. The frame now has been modified to accept the 40R57 tire. Something else on both of these trucks, and it's available on the 994, is detect. So if you see on the front bumper of the 789 and on the front bumper and on the side of the 793, there's radar on there. There's lasers on there and sensors and cameras. So if a small truck would pull up next to either one of these trucks, obviously the size of these trucks, the operator would never see it. He would pull away and chances are hit the truck. Now, if somebody pulled up next to one of these trucks or walked up towards it, the operator would have a warning in the cab. If it had the cameras, he would be able to see what was in his blind spot, correct the problem, and then move on. Detect is available on all of our large mining products, from our wheel loaders to the motor graders, even up to the shovels. And again, that is part of the MineStar system. Truck exchange is pretty important. We like to keep that down to about 0.7 of a minute. Derek went in, took advantage of that little bit of a truck exchange time to make sure that he really stuffed that bucket full, so that if he might have hit the big rock or something in the face and only came out with 70% in the bucket, in the same number of passes, he would still put a rated payload on that truck. Good spot. Now, is what we're going to do, I want to talk about bucket sizing. We have two different buckets available for the 994. We have a 222-inch and a 244-inch. The capacity can be the same, but with a machine like this, whether it's a shovel or if it's a dozer or a loader, we only have so much horsepower. So if that material was tightly bound in the face and it didn't like to load out easy, we would recommend a narrower bucket. That narrower bucket would have more breakout force per inch of cutting edge, make that loader more productive, and again, we have designed this match that loader will run at about 95 to 105% bucket fill all the time. You get too big of a bucket and it can't fill it, your costs are going to increase. If the material's easy loading like this, we'll put on the same capacity bucket, but a wide bucket, which is going to load quicker. It's actually going to help protect our tires. Those are large tires, 58, 85, 57 tires, which on the narrow bucket will stick on the outside of that, and you stand a risk of damaging the tires. With the wide bucket, we get good coverage, we get good protection. Again, very productive. Now remember, this is the extended high lift. See how easy it is for him to reach the middle of this 793, put a rated payload on it at 250 ton. The 793, again, was introduced in 1991 with over 100 million field hours on it. There's a lot of 93s running out there today that have over 100,000 hours on them. So that just tells us that that's a proven, bulletproof product. 793s around the world have moved over 65 billion tons of earth, powered with a C-175-16 Tier 2 at 2,650 horsepower. 5 to 10% more productive over the 793D. We've increased the max GVW, meaning that with the same truck, we can increase that target payload, again, reducing our cost per ton. 209 to 250 yard body. Standard top speeds 37 mile an hour compared to 34 mile an hour on the previous 793D. Traction control system, controlled throttle shift to give us more life in that transmission and powertrain by softening that shift. We're getting ready to do some drilling. In the acquisition with Bucyrus Erie, we bought a drill line. We look at the drill, the MD 5075 setting up on the bench. We have a lot of different drills in our lineup today. 4 track drill models, 5 rock drill models, 6 rotary blast hole drills. Again, depending on the work you're trying to do, we have a drill to match that. Drills today are extremely important because to make material look like what you saw in the wheel loader face, you have to drill it and blast it. So there's quite an art to doing that by knowing the diameter of the holes to drill, till the drill pattern, how much blast to put in it, is it a cast blast, where do you start the blast? So we're starting to learn a lot about that today. Caterpillar does a lot of work with OEM providers. This is an example of that, a 20,000 gallon mega water tank. This truck is also equipped with what we call more or less a smart watering system. The task for a water truck operator is not to see how fast he can get rid of 20,000 gallons, but it's to see how well he can put water down, just enough to control the dust. Obviously, we get too much water down, you start getting wet conditions, you're going to start seeing cut tires. So that operator from inside the cab can use more or less a computer which will look at his ground speed, it'll look at the requirement of water that he needs, and it will put down, again, just that light dusting of water if we need to. 854, we talked about the 844. Again, the 854, one of 3 models that we consider for mining, but something brand new to this machine, and that is the first one that's been out on a K-Series, is a ripper. Now, you traditionally see a ripper on the back of a track-type tractor. There's a lot of need for this in the mining industry today, from ripping out wet spots in a haul road where we don't want to be bringing in a track-type tractor, to ripping possibly partings in a coal mine. All the components on the back of that 854 are off of a D9. So what's in the part system today can be put right onto this, pulled out of a D9 parts book. This machine will go into production with that ripper on it in the 2nd to 3rd quarter of next year. Actually, when this program's over, that machine is going up to North Dakota and going to be working in a coal mine application. The machine's equipped with a throttle lock and quick shift. So the operator will have the machine in 1st gear. He flips the lever with the stick steer control into reverse. It'll automatically go to 2nd gear, and then he'll just bump it back down into 1st gear. Has throttle lock, 17-foot, 9-inch blade. Again, a lot of different blade options available. SU, U, and a coal blade available up into about 58-yard capacity. Again, that ripper feature is also nice in areas where you have noise abatement. There's a lot of places around the world today that have noise restrictions from the mining operations. If you were to have to tram a tractor in here to go do that little bit of ripping, chances are you'd get in trouble and you would exceed the noise level. A machine like that, which would be extremely fast to come in and do a little bit of quick ripping, is going to do it very quietly. The ripper's controlled from the cab, right by the hydraulic controls on the side of the panel with just a little roller switch. Rear view camera on it, so the operator's able to look in that camera and see exactly the depth that he's ripping at. He's pulling up any big boulders. 1st gear ripping only. And again, you can use the same rim pull control setting on the 854 that you were using on the 993 or the 994. The MT 4400 DAC. Both of these trucks are from the proving grounds next door. The MT 5300 is a development truck right now. So we're pulling them in under the shovel, and we talk about cost per ton. The rope shovel is the lowest cost per ton producer that we have today. So if you look at a mining operation today, running that shovel is going to be the lowest cost that you can get. The thing that's key to this is to 2-side load. Operators are well trained. The second operator's on the far side waiting for the shovel to come around, and you notice there'll be no exchange time. So what we're typically used to seeing with the wheel loader of a 0.7 of a minute exchange time, you won't see that here. That 4400 again is the D series. It's got integrated CAT components with the 3516C HD and AC drive. We also today in the Caterpillar lineup, which you'll see in a minute, have an AC drive truck. 2,500 horsepower, 865,000 pound max GVW with a target payload of 240 ton. 40 mile an hour is about the top speed, and again, the Cat electric drive powertrain is designed, integrated, and supported by Caterpillar and the Cat dealer, again, that we rely so much on. We're going to have the 854 hang around. If we get a little bit of spillage off of that shovel, we'll have a machine in there to quickly make a cleanup pass, and then again, we'll get a truck in quickly under the shovel, and we will not have that truck exchange time. Talk a little bit about that 7495. It's definitely different seeing one in yellow. This is the largest of our rope shovel products, 5 different models, the 7295, 7395, 7495 as you see here, and that 7495 is also available in an HD and an HF, which is for high flotation, which will give you big wide tracks for setting on some of that soft ground. Payload ranges in that dipper is from 50 to 120 ton with 54 to 82 yard capacity. Target trucks is 150 ton, roughly 793 through the 400 ton 797, and we try to design the match to be a 3 to 4 pass match. That shovel can also be equipped with MineStar terrain and detect, so we'll know who's around the machine, and we'll also know if we're staying on grade. So as what we're running here today, as again, is one of the MineStar tools, is called Fleet. So in a control room somewhere, and you'll see that down at the product fair today, is the MineStar Control Center. Fleet will actually give that mine operator a view of everything that's going on in the mine today. He will know where all of his trucks are, he'll know where his diggers are, he'll know where his motor graders are, and if he needs to reallocate these machines, that screen and that program is going to help him do that. I don't want trucks sitting out here for 15 or 20 minutes waiting to get loaded. I'm only making money when the trucks are moving. That MineStar system is going to help us achieve that. The 5300, that is a prototype. Again, that truck's from next door at the Proving Grounds, but again, all integrated CAT components, the C175, 16, and AC drive. Product specialists will be here. You can get around that truck in a little bit. Again, rated at 320 ton, and all CAT components and supported by Caterpillar and the CAT dealer. That 7495, this is probably the 8th truck it's loaded. That thing a week ago was sitting in the middle of this floor, and none of this site was done. They put it together in record time. It took 45 truckloads to get it in here and 3 rail cars. So it took a lot of guys around the clock to get that thing up and running in roughly 45 days. So that machine weighs roughly 3 million pounds, and 667,000 pounds of that is ballast that's in the back end of that machine. 76-yard dipper on it. So again, if we were bringing this into your mining operation, we'd really focus on making sure that the bucket size and the body size of your truck matched up to the density that you were working with. 67-foot boom length, 47-foot dipper handle, really nice operator station. Trainer seat, a technician seat, air conditioned, microwave. There's a bathroom in that shovel. So again, you really don't need to let the guy out of the machine. Just tell him to go in the back and have a nap and put him back in the seat. One of the new features that's on that shovel is Hydra Crowd. All the components on this, all the drives on this are electric except for the Hydra Crowd, which is the hydraulic dipper handle. There's a lot of benefit to that. The maintenance is a lot less on that, where you'd usually be changing out gears and teeth and additional motors. Now with that Hydra Crowd system, hydraulically, this machine will have a lot better availability. One of the things that you don't see, and this is one of the first times that this has ever been done, is that's the power for the shovel. Off to the right side of the water truck, that's how we're powering this shovel. Typically, every other rope shovel in the world would be powered by the grid or by the same power that comes to your house. We don't have power here, so we've brought in power. Those are Caterpillar generators. This one's powered by two 3516s, but when this system is up and running and we have the development completely done on this, it will be run by two C175s. This shovel can draw about 3.7 megawatts in about 1.2 seconds. So it takes a lot of power. What's inside of that tent eventually and in the very near future will be mounted inside of that shovel. So as all you would have out here are these two generators sitting on the ground with that cable going to that shovel. You look at a mine operation today that's trying to open up, and the reason that they can't start is because the power company can't get them the power. We can bring them the power. So we'll bring the power generators in, get them running until the grid power comes in. 795F AC, that is our Caterpillar electric drive truck. That's the truck that we started with when we got into the electric business before we took on the unit rig product line. Rated at 345 ton, there's a lot of features on that truck, and there's mining applications today that require electric drive. So based on where you're going to be running today, we have a truck that's going to fit that. You can see on the front of this truck also has detect. You see the power grid in the back of this. We've dropped down the hood, tried to clear the hood off as much as we can to improve visibility. 795, again, at 345 ton, size between the 793 and the 797. And it is a CAT designed and manufactured control system. So this is ours. These are CAT components. Again, improved visibility, traction and slip slide control, automatic retarder and speed control, machine overspeed control, a low creep mode, 5980 R63 tires, hydraulically actuated brakes, which at Caterpillar we know how important that is and how reliable that system is. We talk about target payload and how important that is. If we send every one of these trucks away 10 or 15 ton underloaded, and you figure that you're generating probably $1.50 or maybe $2 a ton in the ore that you move, you're walking away from a lot of money every day. So it's what we look at is the max GVW of the truck, 1.375 million pounds for that 797. Then we weigh that truck, and we know what the empty weight is. So the difference between the empty weight and the max vehicle weight of that truck is our target payload. We have to have a way to manage our target payload. One of the ways that we do that regularly at Caterpillar is to use scales. We have signed an alliance agreement with a company out of Australia called Transcale. A lot of mining operations today are putting these scales in service at their mining operation that can be permanently installed. And when that truck gets loaded, we will randomly run a truck across the scales, compare the TPMS system, which must be maintained, to the scales in the ground, and we can tell that we're moving these trucks around with the rated payload, and again, reducing the cost per ton by trying to really tighten up that target payload range. The other thing that you'll see down below is what we call volumetric scanning. And there's a scanner that would be mounted up on a pole. The truck would run under that scanner. You would take the empty weight and the empty volume of that body. That scanner will actually slice up the material in the body of that truck. It will compare it, the volume, to the tons, and it will tell us what that material weighs per loose cubic yard. So we know exactly what we're moving in our truck bodies, and that also helps a lot when we start trying to determine how to size buckets and bodies. Scrapers, 621. We're going to push load that with the D9T. That is that's a single engine, 621. So typically in an application like this, you would push load him with a track type tractor. 621 likes to be pushed with a D9 or a D10, 631 with a 9 or a 10, and the 651 with a D10 or a D11. That scraper operator is pretty much just steering. That tractor, with the tractive effort he has, is going to push the scraper through. Once the scraper gets out the other side, he's going to close the apron. He'll pull the material back around. Again, this is pretty low-cost dirt. D9T, we're going to bring him in a little bit over here with the D8, and D10 and the D11. But when we talked earlier about bucket sizes, the same thing applies to the blades on these track-type tractors, which we'll talk a little bit more about. That 621, again, two models in our lineup of single-engine scrapers, 24-yard capacity, 33.5 mile an hour top speed. I want you to look at the cab when he goes by. The window goes to the floor now. Excellent visibility. The seat's turned a little bit. The operator has good visibility of the edge, can see what his cutting edge is getting into. You also see the receiver on the back. That receiver will work off of satellites, actually tell him when he's to grade for cut, and it can help him put it back to grade for the fill. 623 looks a lot like the 621, roughly the same capacity, but it has the elevator in it. One of those in our lineup today, and if you noticed, we just had a motor grader over on that road pull that material out of that ditch. Doesn't make a lot of sense to bring in a wheel loader and a truck to pick up that material. Gets pretty expensive when we have tasks for wheel loaders and things to do elsewhere. We're going to run in that 623, pick up that loose material off the road. We didn't affect the road at all. Road's still nice and smooth, and we'll waste that material off. Look at the 627s up on top. Push-pull configuration, one of three, 627, 637, 657. Again, twin engine, push-pull configuration. That front scraper got in the cut where the 621 left. That second scraper got up behind him and actually helped push him through. Once the front scraper got full, the second scraper that was already hooked up with his hook over the back of the bale is now getting pulled through. That front scraper just got a lot heavier by about 22 and a half, 23 yards. And that heavier scraper is now going to have better traction. You'll get more in the back scraper. Again, very, very inexpensive dirt. Two of these guys are going to come by again. Have a look inside the cabin. These are also equipped with the terrain, which will show the operators exactly where they need to dump. They have cushion hitch on them. So that cushion hitch is just like a big shock absorber between the tractor and the scraper to give that operator a smooth ride as he's in some of these rough conditions. And they work extremely well when we start getting in areas with poor underfoot conditions. Even if you can't pull yourself through, we can still put a tractor behind it and get him through. We bring the scrapers back through. We need to get this material down. If we were building a haul road up there, doing some reclamation work, we don't want the material settling in, we'd throw a compactor with it. 740, we talked about the ejector, we talked about haul roads. This is how you put material down on a haul road without having to bring in a tractor to knock it down. Set your ground speed, take off down the road. We don't even need to put a motor grader on that. So we look at how we support our mining operations today. That's a great tool. When you think about motor graders in mining, we think of a 16 and a 24. But every job doesn't require a 16 or a 24. We're going to bring a 160 up, and for some of those secondary roads that you have at your mines, this might be a real good tool. We have to maintain the roads to get the operators and the support people into the mine. I don't want to be pulling that 16 out of the mine to go and maintain a little bit of haul road or a little bit of secondary support road. Consider a machine like this, doing some reclamation work, cleaning some slopes, good visibility out of that cab, all-wheel drive to help him stay on the slope. This is the M-Series motor grader. You can see excellent visibility. Everything except that ripper control is in his left and right hand. Has the optional ripper on the back. You can get an optional scare fire on the front. Again, for maintaining some of those areas on your secondary roads that might need just a little additional attention. And then we talk about the 16 and the 24, which are what we consider mining motor graders. 16, again, M-Series, 24 M-Series. We're going to come in and pull this material out. 16-foot moldboard on the 16M, 24-foot moldboard on the 24. Optional ripper on the 16, standard ripper on the 24. We talked about operator training and how important it is for an operator to be properly trained. Pay attention to the 16. He doesn't quite understand how to make an articulated turn, so he's going to do what we call a three-point turn. Now envision this being a 100-foot wide or a 90-foot wide haul road with haul trucks coming. He's just blocked them up. That 24 motor grader, that operator's been trained and he knows how to make an articulated turn. That 24 motor grader takes 104 feet to turn around if you don't articulate turn it. If you make an articulated turn, it'll turn around in 40 feet. So that operator training is very valuable when we want to make sure that we keep our truck fleet flowing. There's a lot of options available for the motor graders today. If you look at the 16 and the 24, they can both be equipped with terrain. So when we're putting in our roads, and remember an ideal haul road for us is 10% grade. You put terrain in these and we can cut in a perfect 10% constant grade. You can get fenders on both of them. You can get cat walkways all the way around them. Operator trying to clean his windows falls off the machine. We have a lot of downtime. The catwalk that goes around this, the operator would actually walk up over the back of the tires, right up a fender, up onto the catwalks, and the catwalk is situated that you look right through that floor. Extremely valuable piece. When we look at the numbers today, over 524 motor grader units sold since 1996, 94 of them last year, and we're expecting over 130 24 units to be sold this year. Our customers are understanding the value, especially with the tire situation, of big motor graders. Let's look over at the track type tractors. The D8, the D9 coming down the slope, both equipped with terrain. They will know exactly where to waste this material. The D10 and the D11 next to him, D10 at 146,500 pounds. A lot of different blade and ripper options available. Excellent visibility both out the front and the back. Bogie suspension, which actually free floats those rollers and gives us more track contact to make the tractor more effective. What we're going to show you here, the D8 and the D9, the operators have been properly trained to do slot dozing. And in some applications, slot dozing is a very inexpensive way to move material. The guy on the D8 and the D9 have been properly trained to do proper slots, which is from front to back. So they're going to back up just a little ways. They're going to bury their blade in to get a big blade load, and they're going to carry it out and waste it. The next time they go back about the length of the tractor out of that slot, they're going to dive back in. This time when they dive in, those berms that are between those tractors are about half or more the height of the blade. So that means they're going to be able to get more material in front of them because those berms are going to hold that material. The D10 and the D11 just walked all the way back, picked up a load, and they're going to carry it all the way down. But you can see that the material on the 10 and the 11 are actually falling off the blade, so they're not going to carry as much because we don't have the sides helping hold that in. At the end of the day, we're going to have a lot more miles without material in front of the blade on the two big tractors, and we're going to have more dirt moved with the D8 and the D9. So two much smaller tractors in a cost per yard are going to be much more productive. We talked about bucket width on the wheel loaders. The same thing applies to a track type tractor. Bigger's not always better. If I have material that is tightly locked in, I don't want a great big blade because I'm not going to be able to get the blade loads that I need to be cost effective. A lot of times you can be more productive with a smaller blade. So you can get an S blade, an SU, a U, or in the case of the D11, you can put on what's called carry dozer. And that is an extremely large blade for very, very light, free-flowing material. It's always tough to get up and down off of a tractor and even harder to get up and down off a D11. That's an option that's available today is that fold-down ladder. He's going to pull that ladder down. Available on the D10 and the D11. Again, just adding safety back in our operation. Let's bring in some trucks. Now, I'm going to bring a lot of trucks in, but keep in mind there's a lot of trucks that fall in this. Below the 777 would have been the 770, the 772, the 773, and the 775. Then the 789, 793, 795, 797, the 4400, and the 5300. Now, there's a unit rig truck that's equivalent again in the 400 ton to the 797 at 400 ton. And then mixed in between these trucks would be the rest of the unit rig line. So again, we look at it today, and if you have a truck need, we're going to have a truck. If you have any questions, visit with the guys, and thank you very much for coming today.